Nice. How you
Okay.
been?
Good. You?
Good. I am not frantic, but just nose to the grindstone, getting it all.
Yeah.
Doing
Wow.
one last comb through polish. I powered through your edits. It was good, very effective. And now I'm combing through, just getting the tiny little touches because I want to get one more author copy before October 9th.
Yeah.
So at minimum if I can. But I also the way that I'm doing it now though is I'm really glad that I gave it to you in a Word doc because it
Yeah.
was way faster to do your edits
Mm.
and I had already spent time getting all the formatting tightened up. And so what I'm doing now is I'm not going to re-upload a new manuscript and redo the formatting because I don't want to miss anything. So now I'm literally just copy pasting it and then combing through it,
Yeah.
making sure it's all in there and then just doing it chapter by chapter,
Yeah.
which is fine. Tedious, but fine.
Yeah. I think honestly, there's pros and cons to a PDF or a Word proofread. Like I said, like it makes it so much easier on you to do it through
Yeah,
Word.
it
So
does. It does a lot.
yeah,
And
it's
I think
just the same as everything
even
else.
even if I was gonna re-upload the Word doc and just redo the formatting, redoing the formatting, now that I'm familiar with it, would still have been way faster than manually inputting 1800 commas and
Yeah.
changes and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know.
It's
I wondered too. I was like, how many is she gonna find? A lot. Found a lot. Fine. It's good though.
but yes, that is
That's the whole point,
that's the
right? If
point.
it
Yes,
came back with
exactly.
200
Yeah,
changes, I'd be
like
like,
nothing you'd be like, Caitlin, did you read this? What were you
right.
doing?
Uh-huh. Listen, can we have a talk?
I have heard horror stories about that, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like authors that I have worked with that have sent their manuscripts off and they've gotten no edits and they've just said, "Yeah, this is great, maybe tweak this." And that's it. And I'm like, "E. Ay ay
Yeah.
ay." Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one situation where I could think that would maybe be acceptable is if it's we've done the proofread, we've done everything, and it was like, hey, one more quick
No,
polish
that was
something.
like a
But
developmental edit
yeah, no,
and
no,
like an
not.
assessment. Like those are like big things and I'm just like, "Oh no. I'm probably going to overwhelm you with everything
Yeah,
I am going to say." Not of like bad things, but just like
yeah,
asking questions. Is this what you meant? Do you want that? This is how it comes across. Like all the things. I'm like, "Oh
yeah.
no."
Which
And
you
it's
also too like I didn't realize how difficult of a job that would be for like even developmental editing because you want to give suggestions without changing their story and changing their style. So
yeah.
it's like you have okay, you could go this way, but you could also go this way, but you could also this way, and like,
Yeah.
which where you go, yeah, it depends.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line of I try very consciously to ask a lot of questions. I just emailed a client that I wrapped up her developmental edit like weeks ago. And then I had something and I was like, oh, I need to email her. And I was like, hey, so I was just having a thought because we had talked about blah, 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 blah. And you could do this and just an idea. I don't know. I just need it out of my head. And I'm like, I don't know. But I always like it is definitely a what do you think about this? No? Okay. I mean, yeah, all right. And I'm always like, if you don't like my ideas, I hope that it like sparks something where you're like, I
Mhm.
don't really like that, but that's like a little crumb that led you to something else
Yeah.
is
Well, and
the
even like the
goal.
advice with writing groups is the same way because it's don't when you
Yeah.
get it advice back from alpha readers and stuff. I had that talk with all of my alpha and beta readers where I was like, look, good advice is this felt slow, this was boring, this was exciting. I like this part, I like this character. Bad advice is you should put a fight scene in here. You should
Yeah.
do this specific change
Yeah.
because that can skew where the story's supposed to go.
Yeah, it's
So,
yeah, what you think personally where it should go.
mhm,
Yeah, exactly.
mhm.
I love that
But
we're coordinating. We both have like
I
mics.
know,
We
right?
both
I
have
was like,
headphones and we both have black
yeah,
t-shirts on. I love that for
nailed it.
us.
Nailed it.
Nailed
I
it.
look
Not
professional.
planned.
Okay, I've got my things. I want to look fancy because I know her background's all foofy.
I redid my background this morning
Oh yeah, with the
because
purple.
yeah, with the
Nice.
purple. So I wanted to hang these in my room. These were actually hanging in my room for about 4 days. And the baby was like, "These are so much fun, Mom." And I was like, "These have to go. These have to." So I was like, you know what? Halloween time, we're putting them up here.
Heck yeah.
That's
Oh, they look cool.
that's
They
where
look
they're
pretty.
going. So
Yeah, I like
yeah.
it.
Alrighty. We're already recording. We just jumped in and we're just chit chatting away. So I'd
Yeah.
love to actually dive in. Welcome. Hello to
Hello.
the Chats and Chapters podcast. I'm so excited to bring it back. You're my first comeback author interview. So I'm very excited.
We'll keep it exciting.
Yeah. Okay. So to start, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself. Tell us the AJ Chase origin story.
The origin story. Oh my gosh. How much time do we have? No, I am married. I have 3 kids. I live in Minnesota. I work in medicine. I'm a family medicine PA. And that's its own long history of why I got into medicine. But the short of it is I had cancer as a kid. I believe that God saved me from that because I was supposed to die. I wasn't supposed to survive it. Felt a calling into medicine. And so that's my career, which has been extremely rewarding. As far as writing goes, though, I've always wanted to be a writer ever since I was a kid. I remember having so many stories in my head that I just thought everybody had. And like when I was, I'd be like watching a TV show, or I watched a lot of anime when I was a teenager, and I could never, like, whenever somebody said, "Oh, this is my favorite character," that it never made sense to me because I've never been able to pick a favorite character for certain stories. I always just made my own. So they're gone now. They're lost in the ether, but I've documents of just, this is my character, this is their name, this is what they look like, these are their superpowers, this is where they came from, this is how they fit in the plot. And I didn't know that wasn't normal until I got older. But I wrote like a short story when I was like 11 years old that'll never see the light of day. Dabbled in creative writing here and there, but obviously going into medicine, that's a lot of school, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of dedication, got to keep your grades up and everything. So that consumed my life until I was about 25, 26 when I graduated. Then I got married. And then last year, April of last year of 24, we had some friends over and we were just having a game night. And that family has 2 daughters, 15 and 13, Ellie and Malin, and they are both excited about creative writing. They've been writing some things. So we got to talking about that. And I told them my idea for Sword and Veil, for the book that we're publishing. And they got excited and they're just like, do it, just start writing, just go for it. And it was just that little nudge out the door that I needed. And there's no stopping the train now.
Wow. You thought it was going to take a long time to explain that, but honestly, you wrapped it up very well.
Thank you.
Look at that. That's a straight to the point, gives us what we need to know. I have a question. It's probably stupid, but what does PA stand for?
Physician associate. So when you go to the doctor and you go to the clinic and you have a doctor's appointment, you can see a doctor, you can see basically an MD or a DO, you can see a nurse practitioner, or you can see a physician associate. Okay. And I'm the 4th one in the line. It's the specialty that I work in is
physician, but I was like physician assistant, physician associate. I don't know.
Yeah, it used to be physician assistant, and they changed the title because we're not assistants. It's a lot of I will say educational politics as far as that goes. Yeah. But basically, you go to the doctor, you see me, you see a doctor, you see a nurse practitioner. It just depends on who you wish to see, basically. But in family medicine, I see a little bit of everything: blood pressure and diabetes and depression and you name it, rashes, scratches.
Wow. Yeah. Jeez. So that's what you do for your day job.
It's so much fun, though. I'm not going to lie. It's hilarious because I'm actually not a people person. I'm die-in-the-wool introvert. My happy place is with my headphones on in the dark, like, basement on my computer.
Same. Yeah.
But there is something so rewarding about helping people. And I think also I'd be lying if I said that it was all about the people. I think a lot of it is also just the intellectual stimulation because in general medicine specifically, like if you go into a specialty, let's say you're a pediatric rheumatologist, so you're seeing kids with autoimmune diseases, like that's a very tiny wheelhouse. But in family medicine, I get a little bit of everything. I've caught cancer, I've caught diabetes, I've counseled patients through the death of a loved one, I've sutured up cuts, I've taken toenails off. You just get a little bit of everything, and every patient then becomes like a Rubik's cube. Yeah. Where it could be anything. Somebody comes in, oh, I've been tired for 3 months, and it can just be, anything, and I get to figure it out.
Huh. Yeah, I do love a good puzzle. That's how I look at manuscripts. I'm like, it's a Rubik's Cube. You got to piece the things together, ask the right questions, all of the things. That's fascinating. I love that you have writing, but you're not someone who like hates their day job. You know what I mean? I feel like there's so many people that absolutely hate what they do, like day in and day out. I was there, obviously, but like, it's fascinating that you have both.
Yeah, I actually have a friend of mine who's in that right now. He's in the trenches, just every day is a slog. And I will be honest, I have absolutely been blessed with a great career. I not only knew what I was gonna do at 15. I was like, okay, I'm going into medicine. I had a clear path to get there. I love it. It's a great job. I'm very blessed in that regard.
Yeah, that is great. What I had at 15 did not pan out. So
What was the plan?
love that for you. I was going to go into law enforcement. I went to school for criminology.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
I went criminal justice, psychology, all the things. I went to school for a really long time. Went to 4 colleges, switched my major 3 times. Graduated with, I don't know, 149, 150 credits, which is
Dang.
you only need like 120
Yeah.
to actually have like a specific degree, but I was nuts-a-roos. And so it is mind-boggling to me that our paths cross because I feel like we're so much alike with like our learning and mental stimulation and like having to have that. And because at this point I'm like, I don't use my degree, but I also wouldn't change it either because it was just a completion grade. Like I needed 1 for something. Like, I don't know why.
Yep.
Looking back, I'm like, obviously I thought I was going to use it.
College is its own. It's not quite a soapbox of mine, but it is its own conversation of debate. I just loved learning. It was just fun.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like we have that in common. Getting back on topic, would you say that when your friends came over and you talked to them about Sword and Veil and everything and they told you to go for it, would you say that was like your aha moment where like you were like, I have to write this? Or had you already had that before and you were just throwing it out there to see what they would say?
No, that absolutely was the light bulb moment. I think because I asked myself the question, I was like, why haven't I written this yet? Like, why haven't I started?
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much that the dream died by any means. I think it was just life got in the way. And I had technically the true inception of Sword and Veil, the idea for the book seeded in when I was in graduate school in 2018. I was in class and I had this idea about what if you had a fantasy book and you went to this war college to learn your magic and to do whatever. And that was just the seed of the idea. And I remember I wrote it down on a Word document. I was like, okay, I will shelf this until I'm able to do it. But then life got in the way and then you get married and then you're moving and you get to start having kids and stuff. And then it was just that reminder of, hey, why haven't you written this yet?
Yeah. What's stopping you? Yeah. So speaking of all of that, once you started writing, how did you balance writing with your day job and your wife and your now 3 kids, all of that? How? So that's the question everyone wants answered.
So I will fully admit, I did it in an unhealthy way at first. It's not just coffee. It's not just coffee. There's no drugs involved. I did it in an unhealthy way at first, which was basically, it was just obsessive. So for context, I have been told many times I'm a light switch. I'm either 0% or I'm 100% on. I'm incapable of doing something slowly, casually, half-heartedly, which is great.
It's great.
But you can also hyperfixate and get obsessed. So truth be told, and I've been very cautious about saying this to the public because I know it can be taken poorly, but I wrote Sword and Veil in about 7 weeks, 7.5 weeks.
Yeah.
I was watching some YouTubes about creative writing and how to get into the writing process and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that actually Brandon Sanderson said, he has a lecture series on YouTube. He said, if you average 2,000 words a week, you'll get your book written in a year. And I went back and I did the math and I averaged about 19,000 words a week because it was just writing in between. But it was just that kind of constant obsession. I was constantly thinking about it. I was writing in between patients. I would get home, we'd eat supper. I'd write a little bit. We'd put the kids to bed. I'd write more before bed. And God bless my wife.
That was my next question.
She was supportive through the whole thing because she was so excited for me that I was finally heading toward this dream.
Yeah.
But it was after I wrote Sword and Veil that I was like, it was done, it was drafted, and I sent it off to beta readers. I was like, okay, I need to slow down because I shoved everything out of, like, all of my other hobbies went out and a lot of family time went out the window. So I can't do that anymore. So the answer is much more balanced than that.
Yeah. With all of that, my question, because once again, I feel like I'm very much the same way. Once I like get into something and I'm invested, that's all I want to do. And I'm like, just leave me alone. I'm busy. So was there ever a point where your wife was like, honey,
Yes.
Was it easy? Because I find for me, once I'm in a task and like, even Brad, like coming into the office and asking a question or like wanting to brainstorm or tell me something of his parents want to do something this weekend, I'm like, my brain is not there with the conversation. It's like in my computer with what I'm doing. So did you find it a struggle to bounce in and out of it because I find I
Oh yeah.
struggle with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And truthfully, it's actually still there. I very commonly, my wife will tell me something
Yeah.
and I'll even respond to her and I'm not even aware that I did that. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, hey, what about X? She's like, we just said that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it is still a little bit of a struggle. I
Yeah.
would say back when I was writing the first one, it was difficult because there was I was so excited about it. There was this almost reluctance to pull out of that fantasy world,
Yeah.
and that was the most unhealthy part because obviously I should never choose that over family time. So
Right.
now what I've been trying to do is on the back foot is okay, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm going to keep writing and this can't come before family. So now I do
Yeah.
most of my writing at work, just in between patients, and then when I get home, it gets shelved. And that is the only way that I know of to help separate that because mentally I go,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going home. It's turned off.
Yeah.
Editing has been different because I put myself on a timeline.
Yeah.
So I got to get
Yeah.
that done.
Yeah.
But that's the way that I've drawn the line is okay,
Yeah.
after work, I'm going home, then we're good, unless there's dedicated time for it.
Yeah. That's good. I feel like you have to within a lot of things, whether it's writing or something else, you have to you don't have to, but it's common to go to the extreme and realize, oh, that's the extreme on this end. Here's the extreme of not writing over here. Okay, writing at work, not doing it when I get home. Here's the happy medium. And I think sometimes it takes a bit of the extremes to be like, okay,
Yeah.
I've figured out what actually works for me. And
Well,
it's different for everyone.
yeah, and it does. I will fully admit too that my wife gets significant credit for the completion of this book and the other two books and for any future stuff, simply because, like, when you're trying to balance those two things, because your spouse has priority, it was Tab's support in that
Yeah.
that gave me the freedom to put more attention to it. And I can see how it can be very difficult if there's just a lot going on at home.
Mm.
Then you rightfully have to push less into the
Yeah.
writing, which it might be a season and might just be where you are at that point.
Yeah, I agree. What is one surprising thing about you that isn't in your author bio
Ooh,
that we haven't already talked about?
man, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot. Surprising thing about me
One surprising thing that isn't in your author bio
that we haven't talked about.
that we haven't talked about.
They're nothing crazy. I love to play frisbee golf. I'm
Okay,
actually
that's surprising.
not bad at frisbee golf. It's my one outdoor hobby.
Nice.
But I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I guess what would be more under the lines of a secret talent is my ability to come up with metaphors. My wife tells me all the time, we'll be having a conversation. She'll be like, this is really difficult. And I'll be like, yeah, because it's when you have a bee and it just ends up being, and just give some random, did you just come up with that off the top of your
Yeah,
head?
like where does that come from?
I don't know. It just does. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, frisbee golf. I love frisbee golf.
Okay, frisbee golf. I like it. I see. Surprising. I wouldn't have guessed. Would not have pegged you for a frisbee golf man, but we all have our special talents. I like it. Diving into the actual book, Sword and Veil, what inspired the core idea or theme of Sword and Veil?
I said before the original inception of the idea was in graduate school. I would say the core element, the core question that I asked was revolving around a war college and what it'd be like just to train to learn magic. Because I was in college, obviously, that's what springboarded off it. But I would say that was the first question, but then what got layered on top of it, I would say there is one big theme throughout the entire trilogy, which is it asks more of the question of propaganda and the shaded region between right and wrong. When I set out to write this book, so this book revolves around a war, and the whole trilogy is about why is this war happening? What caused it to start? It's been going on for 500 years. Why has this not stopped so long? And when you sit down and you think about that, you're like, that's generations of this continuing. And one thing that kind of this common theme, I said propaganda earlier, is that perceptions can get so manipulated and morphed over time. If you're told something enough times, or even I know that the human brain is so powerful, if you tell yourself something over and over again, it becomes a truth to you. And a lot of people will die on those hills. And it was that idea of, I never liked books where there was obviously a good guy and obviously a bad guy, right? Superman versus, or I guess Batman versus the Joker, right? I don't know
Yeah.
Superman's villains.
I don't either.
It's
I'd have
fine.
been like, yeah, sure. You could have named something random. I'd have been like, cool.
Exactly. But regardless, but good guy versus bad guy. And it's not that those stories are bad, but again, I think it's one of those intellectual stimulations things. I want to ask the theoretical question of who is right in this circumstance. And
Yeah.
when you dive into the book as you're reading through Sword and Veil, there's the Anayans and there's the Zentari. And as you go through the trilogy, you learn that neither of them are 100% right and neither of them are 100% wrong. There is no definable good or bad
Yeah.
guy in this. And I did that on purpose. So that's the core idea that I was starting to build from.
Yeah. I love that. And it's done so well. So how did you develop your characters? I guess just the main characters. Are they based on people in your life, or did you entirely make them up?
They're entirely made up except for one, and he was completely by accident. Actually, I made an original character with pretty much without any trauma, no scars. He's got a completely normal family. He's got all this kind of stuff. Did that by accident. But as far as the main characters go, every other character is not based on anybody. What I will admit inadvertently did as the story progressed, because I found I'm very much a discovery writer, is that the main characters, Eli and Eva, they're very much mirror images of each other. And in the first book, Evelyn has much more of a character arc, the traditional character arc of difficulty in her identity and her place in the war, and then she comes to a place of, okay, this, I'm choosing this. Eli is far more steady, that Captain America, and he has a cathartic moment in the book, but it's not until the second book that idea gets flipped, and then Eva becomes the more steady one because she's already found that decision of where to go. And Eli has this long emotional character arc throughout the book in the second one, and then off to the third one and stuff. So I would say those ideas of where their personalities came from and who they are and stuff, I would say they very much played off each other.
Yeah.
Because I set it up to be that duality.
Because they do the whole time.
Mhm.
Blew my brain exploded. Anyways, you saw the notes on the manuscript. I was like, wait, hold on, what? So you said you're a discovery writer. What exactly does that mean to you? I'm assuming you didn't do an outline or anything. Is that kind of what you're meaning? Or
yes. So what I've been told is that writers are either architects or they're discoverers. What they say, architects or gardeners will say. I think it was actually, was it George Martin that came up with it? It doesn't matter. An architect is somebody who outlines. They will outline the entire book, the main beats, the chapters, what's going to happen in the chapters. And they basically just keep developing the outline until they're just writing out the narrative. And then there you go. That's the book. That's a die-in-the-wool architect. A die-in-the-wool discovery writer is Stephen King. Stephen King says, never make an outline. Don't touch it because it's going to ruin the story. Once you know what's going to happen, you lose the magic and you can't write it anymore. So Stephen King, he doesn't even outline. He just has an idea for character and he just starts.
But where do you go?
Exactly. But here's the thing. Let me tell you. I have found that I think I'm about 70-30. I'm 70% discovery writer, 30% architect, which is I still need some semblance of where we're going, right? I have the idea, the premise. I know where we're going. And I will say what I use the term buoys. I've got little buoys along the way where I go, okay, this is a cool scene. This is a cool twist. This is whatever. But as far as how to get from A to B and B to C and C to D, that's all discovered. I just start writing on the page, and I hate to say it, but the feel of the story and like where the characters want to go, and I don't know, it leads you in the narrative. And legitimately, yeah, it's fun.
You're a basic girl with her pumpkin spice latte going off the
listen, Starbucks, gross.
You don't like Starbucks? I don't like pumpkin spice lattes, but you don't like Starbucks at all?
First off, pumpkin spice latte, that's delicious. I'll give you that. But no, I don't typically drink Starbucks. I'm more foofy than that. I drink my coffee out of a French press every morning. Okay. I can't do coffee maker coffee.
Yeah, that's funny. I do pour over. I don't have coffee every day, but when I do coffee, I have to do pour over because the French press is too acidic and my stomach can't handle it.
Really?
Yeah, I'll get sick.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I got stomach ulcers.
Oh.
My freshman year of college. And so I have to not like really be wary, but if I did French press coffee 3 weeks ago, I was like, my stomach hurts so bad. I can't drink enough water to dilute it. I just have to ride it out for the day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I think it also
Fun.
depends on what kind of coffee you use too, because if I buy cheap coffee and in a French press, it can give you a rock gut where it just really
Well,
upsets
what
your
a
stomach.
cheap coffee, because mine is like $17 a bag.
That is not cheap coffee.
Okay. I'm like, hold on. I feel like I don't buy cheap coffee, but I don't know.
No,
Everyone has a different definition. But yeah,
no,
it's
I
like
would say
16,
Folgers is
17.
cheap coffee.
Yeah, no, I don't. We don't do that in this house. Absolutely not.
No, my father-in-law, he's a coffee aficionado, and he calls Folgers the F word. He
That's
won't
funny.
touch it. No.
That's hilarious. Okay. I feel you're a mix between a plotter and a pantser, basically.
Yeah, and from what I've been told, most people are a mix. It's just a question of how much are you
Yeah,
more than one
like
way or the other.
what
And I think
the scale.
where that comes from is I've now written 3 books and I'm starting on a 4th. I get to tell you about that later. And I found that there's only so much that I can outline before my
Yeah.
brain, it goes, no, I'm done. I just need to write it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everybody has, I have no idea, but from my understanding, so for this book, it was okay, I've got the 2 main characters. Elijah's at the Citadel. Eva's going to be in the field. I know where I'm going and how it's going to end. And I just kept adding details until I was like, I don't know what else can happen. I just got to start.
Yeah, your
And I
ending
just
was
started writing.
brutal,
Sorry.
but it's fine.
That's a good, they want to read the second one.
Yes, but also fine though. Have you read any V.E. Schwab books? I don't know if she's
Not
if
actually.
she's your jam, but she has a podcast, No Right Way, WRITE, No Right Way. And she interviews her author friends about their writing process and everything that they do. And I find it fascinating, of course, but V.E. Schwab is very much a outline every single thing before she can start. So it just depends what works for you and how you would go through the process. But I think it's interesting. So what was the most unexpected twist or change that happened during your writing process
Like in the story or for me?
for you?
I would say how much of the work of writing a story is drafting. I thought when I first started, I thought drafting was 80% of the job. That getting the story on paper was where it takes all the effort. You got to put in all the work. You got to get it done. And I was like, okay, I can do that. Like I said, 100%. Here we go. And then I cranked it out really fast. And I was like, wow, that wasn't bad at all.
Woo,
and then I was like,
I'm golden.
no. And then I'm like, now I have to revise again and again. And then I got to find an editor who's smarter than I am and fixes the grammar. And then I got to change it again. And then, yeah. So it was, I legitimately was very overwhelmed and very surprised.
Flipped.
Oh, so thought it was flipped. And it was such a rude awakening because I was like, when I first started, so for context, everybody's brain is different. Mine does science and math really well. I am terrible at English. And I don't know why I so badly wanted to be an author, but
I think terrible is a stretch, but
okay, terrible might be a stretch. I'm getting better.
yeah.
But my brain struggles mostly with reading comprehension, which is funny because when I'm going through, if I'm legitimately proofreading something, I have to read it one word at a time, not even as a sentence, because I'll miss stuff. Like when I was studying for the entrance exam for graduate school, there's a math section, there's a reading comprehension section, and then there's an essay. And I spent 3 months studying for this big test. I spent 2 weeks of the 3 months on math and the rest on the reading comprehension because I knew English was my weakness. I still scored higher in math. And so I just know that that's just part of my brain that struggles. So when I went to drafting, I've got a talent for it. That's awesome. It's great. I'm loving it. But then I switched into it. Now I have to revise and edit. And when I tell you that was so painful I've gotten better at it, but that was really hard. So that was a very rude awakening.
Okay. Yeah. I think you're definitely not the only one that thinks that because I've seen a lot of authors and writers talk and they're like, yeah, first draft's done. I'm on the way. I'm like 90% done.
Nope.
Like now I need an editor and we're good to go. And I'm like,
nope.
I wish it was that easy, but it's not.
Nope. You are an hour into a 6-hour drive, girl.
Yep.
Yep.
If you could have a conversation with one of your characters, who would it be and what would you ask them?
I can ask this. No, I can't. I have questions, but I got to think of a question that's not spoilers.
That's true. Yeah, it can't be a spoiler.
No, it can't be a spoiler.
No. Be a good idea.
Okay, I've got one that wouldn't be a spoiler. So, General Malachi, the leader of the Anayan army, the Legion,
Yeah.
I would ask him two questions.
I have questions for him
If I
too.
believed he would tell me the truth. One,
Yeah.
what happened in your childhood? I can't say any more than that. And two, what actually happened to your wife? Or I would say, better question, what did your marriage actually look like? And those are obscure.
Those are solid questions.
Well,
Those are really good questions.
They're because you
I
know the
also have
character.
I also have those questions. I have
And-
questions for Captain Renard, but that's beside the point. Yeah. It's fine though. How does your book reflect something personal from your life or experiences? Or does it? If it doesn't, then you
No,
don't have
it-
to answer.
it does.
But I'm sure it does. Because why would it not? Am I asking the hard questions today?
No, I absolutely know the answer. I'm just trying to think if I should answer it.
You don't
I think
have
it's
to.
fine. I think it's fine.
It's up to you.
So I suppose another surprise that I had that something came out of left field is one of the main characters, Eva, she has a very sad childhood. Father was abusive in all the different ways. And throughout the series, you get more and more information of what that was and what that looked like and what happened and why it happened, etc. But I'll say this, toward the end of the book, when I was writing some of the later scenes, which readers will get to find out if they buy it.
Yes.
Eva has a number of flashbacks of that time in her childhood. And there were actually a couple of times where I legitimately had to stop writing because it was hitting too close to home.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to, we'll say, project my own personal life onto a character that hard. I didn't realize that I did. And and there were a couple times I had to stop because it was getting too much. But that, I would say, is the biggest piece of myself in the story.
Yeah.
Beyond there's little sprinkles here and there, but is the biggest one for sure.
Yeah. Oh.
It's okay.
Okay, moving on to the writing and publishing journey. So you said you took 7 weeks to write your first draft?
Yeah, between 7 and 8. Yeah.
So what was the biggest challenge you have faced as a first-time author? Was it the revising or was it something?
Yeah, it's between editing and marketing.
That's fair.
I hate marketing so much. And I'm also just not a salesman. Like my wife, like my father-in-law and my wife are both natural salesmen. They buy and sell. Like my wife will go to thrift stores and she'll find stuff and then she'll sell them online or whatever. Like she'll flip, and she's really good I hate it. I hate that so much. I hate haggling. I hate doing all that kind of stuff. So getting on and putting a camera in my face and trying to be like, hi, you should buy my book and stuff like that. Advertising. There's nothing in me that enjoys that. And I know that I don't have a marketing team. I don't have a budget.
You're good at it though.
I'm trying to good.
I've seen your TikToks. I tell you, you're great at them. Like every single one that I see, I saw a few of your like YouTube shorts and I'm like, dude, I can't tell that you hate it.
Thank you. And it's just me playing off, other parts of my personality that I'm more comfortable with. But yeah, between that and editing, and I would almost split, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I would almost split editing and revision as two separate things. At least they are in my brain. Editing is, in my mind, more of specific word use and grammar, whereas revision is more of the ideas of the story, the plot points, the pacing, the broader picture.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I'd say of those two, editing was, I still struggle with it. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's why I have you. No, that's why I have you. I need you.
My bad. Okay, so going off of that, I guess, once you got through writing, revisions, self-edits, working with me, all of this kind of stuff, how has your self-publishing journey been? How have you found it? I'm assuming you had to jump through hoops. Were any of them on fire?
No, none of them were on fire, but
Okay.
I would say there's number one, more hoops than you think.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it's okay, I wrote the first draft. I'm 80% of the way there. No, you're not. No, you're not. There's a lot. But so there's more hoops than you think, and nobody tells you how to do this stuff. So I would say this is the debut novel, and so it's more just the growing pains of, okay, how do I edit? How do I revise my story? How do I get it polished? Okay, now I need an editor. Now I got to find an editor. Now I gotta go into that. And then, okay, I need beta readers. I need to find beta readers to read my book. I had a list of people that I gave my book to originally as alpha readers, and there were a couple of them that never finished it, never got back to me, never didn't, or they got it back and they didn't give me really any feedback. They're just like, yeah, it was good, and then handed it back. And I'm like, that's thanks.
Appreciate it.
So it's more in my mind the refining of that process and figuring it out for yourself, because nobody's there to tell you how to do it unless you have a close friend who has done this before. So it's figuring out, okay, you need ISBN numbers for your books. Where do you buy those from? Like, how do you get that? How do you copyright your novel? Does it matter when you copyright it? All the tiny little
I feel
minutia.
like we should create a guide. As you're talking, I'm like, we should create a guide for new authors of like how to do all of this and all of the steps.
I would do it. I absolutely would do it, because I would have paid good money to have that.
Yeah. Because every author writer that I see on TikTok, they're always trying to like figure out the steps. Every author interview that I have, every single one of y'all is, I don't know. I had to figure it out. I did a lot of Googling. Like I don't know. I asked a lot of questions. And I'm like, damn, we should round up some people and package it.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Coming soon. We'll let you know. If you could give your pre-writing self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Pre-writing. So like before I started.
Yep.
You're writing your book, not somebody else's.
Solid. I love it.
And that, I think, will go, you can take that in two ways. The first way is from the writer perspective. I am not writing a book by Sarah Maas. I'm not writing Brandon Sanderson's book. I'm not writing Lee Bardugo's book. I'm writing my book. I'm writing the story that is in my mind and my heart and what that looks like. And it's going to be different, not in an inferior or a superior way, just in a different way. You make the argument, there's no new stories, whatever, but this is my story. And just because it doesn't look like a story that I really, that's maybe similar, that's not superior or inferior, it's not good or bad, it just is different.
Yeah.
The other way to look at that is I'm writing the story that, again, is my story. I'm not writing it for what I think the readers want, because there's going to be all different readers, all different tastes, and some people will love it, some people will hate it, and hopefully a lot of people are in the middle, and that's okay. It's reminding yourself that this is just the story that I have. This is the story that I want to write, that I believe in, and not, pushing those things to the wayside.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do when you're an artist, because we're our own worst critics. And I know I myself struggle with just that self-confidence, being very self-conscious. I need a lot of positive reinforcement. I'm getting better at it over the years, and my wife helps a lot. But that would definitely be something that I would say, just to immediately put those boundaries up, to not look at something. It's why I'm still sad, because I want to get back into reading, because I love reading, but when I started writing, I stopped, mostly because I didn't have time, but also later because I was incapable of reading something and not comparing it to my book. And that was stealing the joy of that writing process. And so the only way that I could deal with that is just to stop reading. And I think I need to get to the point where I got that confidence as an author to say, my book's not your book, and it doesn't matter if I think yours is better. It's not that simple.
Yeah. This ties in very nicely. Are there any authors or books that influenced your story, your style, or no, because you stopped reading?
There are. So one of my favorite authors, Ted Dekker, he does a lot. He does some fantasy. He does a number of thrillers, and his style of writing, one of my favorite books written by him is called 3, and it's a psychological thriller. It is the book that got me into reading when I was 17. And it had a crazy twist, knocked my socks off. It was fantastic. And I've read a number of his books, and his narration style is just very, very, it's captivating, but it's not wordy. And I'm reading Lord of the Rings right now, and man, Tolkien was a great world builder, but I don't know, his narration style is difficult because he's all over the place and there's a lot of things going on. And I've read some books where it's word salad. And I know Ted Decker's, he's captivating, but he's just very straightforward.
Yeah.
I would say that I definitely took inspiration from Leigh Bardugo, her duology, Six of Crows.
Yeah.
Such a good book. Easily, I think it's number 2 on my list of top 5 books of all time. I took 3 by Ted Decker. Yeah.
Okay.
The twist in that book
it's still the top.
It's
Okay.
worth it.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair.
And I
do love psychological thrillers. They're a grand time.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's more to come. Anyway, I would say with Leigh Bardugo, one of the things, and you could file Sarah J. Maas into this too, because we've had that conversation with Throne of Glass. From their inspiration is the characters. It's I fell in love with these people. And I had that with Six of Crows with that book. By the end of the duology, I was like, I don't want to leave because I want to know what happens with these characters. I love these characters so much.
You literally feel like you're like losing friends by putting the book back on your shelf. You're like, I don't know what to do anymore.
It's like, how do I get that? How do I write characters that you just absolutely care about them by the end of the story, and that when something bad happens, you don't feel 100% of the weight, but you feel bad because you know that they feel bad, which is funny because they're fictional. Then lastly, Michael Crichton and Brandon Sanderson they're such creative ideas. Yeah. They're all over there. I feel like they're pulling stuff out of thin air. I don't want to say Stephen King because I haven't read a ton of his, but unpopular opinion, his books are just too dark. They're too heavy. They're too much. And I think he's just a good example of the extreme where it's like, there's some stuff that you can think of that I just don't want to read.
You don't need it out there in the world.
You don't need it
Stephen King. And I haven't read, I don't like scary movies. I don't like scary books. That's not it's not my thing. But I do have some of my mom's Stephen King books, and I'm like, maybe one day I'll try it out and see.
And they're not all the same. Like his book Secret Window is really good, and I enjoy
the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a cult classic in my family.
Yeah,
but I enjoy a good horror book and even a good horror movie. But with the context of, I'm extremely particular about that genre specifically because. One, in my mind, it can get too demonic and icky. And then on the other hand, it's just, again, you're just uncomfortable with some of it. It's like there's scary and then there's, okay, this is just icky.
Yeah.
And I got that more often than not with Stephen King.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, they have extremely creative ideas. And so it was modeling that off of, okay, I want to take, we'll just say like a soft magic system, for example. Oh, everybody has a little magic inside. So, okay, but how can I make that a little bit more unique? And so, okay, then my magical wars in my book, now they have specific weapons called rune blades that you have to have in order to use your magic. And okay, what does your magic look like? What are the limits of that? Why are they different?
Yeah.
And there's a couple magic systems in my book. And that inspiration came from those authors just because they're so creative with it.
Yeah. I like it. Interesting. What is the best writing advice you've received?
Man, can I even boil it down into one thing?
You can give me a top 3. I don't know.
Okay, I would say number 1 from the get-go, because this is what got me started, which is just start writing. You don't have to experience, you don't have to have a Microsoft Word subscription. You don't have to have a MacBook. You don't need to be part of a creative writing class. Literally just after work, eat your supper and pull up a Google Doc and start putting words on the page. That is literally where it starts. You can learn as you go, all of the things of, okay, how do I make my narration better, my prose better, and my characters better and stuff. That's all learned as you go. And so the only barrier between you and writing and being an author is your decision to start. I'd say that's the biggest piece of advice that I got.
Yeah.
There's obviously others, and I would say the next to that, a close second is it doesn't have to be perfect. I thankfully did not have the issue of getting stalled out. I've had writer's block a couple times. There was one spot in the first book, and then there's another spot in the second book that I got pretty legitimate writer's block where I'd write out the chapter and nope, and I'd delete it, and then I'd write it out and then I'd delete it. And that was just a discovery writer thing. I didn't know this at the time, but that's a discovery writer thing where you're trying to figure out how to develop the plot.
Yeah.
But instead of outlining an idea, you just write it and see where it goes. And you go, no, I don't like that. And you delete it.
Yeah.
You waste 12,000 words.
Yeah. I was like,
But you get through it. And I think if what will happen is if you're too concerned with the tiny minutia of, I don't like the way this sentence sounds, I don't like the way this dialogue sounds, it doesn't matter. Just get the beats of the story and keep moving forward. And that's really hard to do sometimes. And I know there's a lot of authors, even just on Book Talk, who have said that they've been on the same novel for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think it's just that creative paralysis, where they just get stuck wanting it to be perfect.
Yeah. I think it's important to take into account and think about like the chapters that you wrote and deleted not being like wasted. Like nothing that you write is wasted because you learned, okay, that's not the way I'm going to do it. And like every time you got a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And then you finally hit the chapter where you're like, I'm not deleting this one. This is staying.
Yep.
Yeah. Would you give any other advice based on your experience for aspiring writers who are listening that you did not just mention? You can say.
No, I'm just boiling with thoughts. I'm not a fast thinker. I'm a deep thinker.
No, you're okay. I want to let you know that you don't have to answer every question. You can be like, I don't want to answer that one.
I want to answer questions. I'm trying to think of what would be, I'm ranking the pieces. So I would say, as an aspiring author, I am publishing my debut novel. I am planning to publish the trilogy, unless, God forbid, the first book just falls flat on its face. I'm to just move forward and move forward. Thank you. But what I would say is, when you first start writing, your job is not to sell books. Your job is to figure out your process. And that's something that Brandon Sanderson said in his lecture series that struck me, because he's absolutely right. When I first started writing, selling the book wasn't even on my radar. I was just enthralled in the story.
Yeah.
And I think that was so incredibly beneficial, because then the story became something that wasn't modeled after what I thought would sell. Because a perfect example is, and this is actually something that I've been wondering about, is if I have a disadvantage being a male author writing fantasy with romance, because so far I have other book ideas. Like I said, I'm starting them. They all have romance in them. And I'm very aware that 70% or so, I think, of readers is women. And I think that's an advantage to have a feminine brain, and what that perception of romantic interactions and everything looks like. And what's funny is that we'll say, is it book 4 of Throne of Glass where Rowan comes in, or even just Fourth Wing? Everybody knows Fourth Wing, where it's, okay, you've got that extremely alpha. You've never read for them? Yeah. The alpha male, kind of an antagonist. He's a.
Oh, you froze. You froze. Don't leave me. Hello?
There's no internet.
All right. Just the odds of your power.
What the heck?
That's
never happened.
That
I'm so sorry.
moment in time is hilarious. I know you were talking about Fourth Wing, because we talked about the tip you'd share based on your experience. We were talking about Fourth Wing, but I have no idea where you were going with it. And I don't know if you'll remember.
Oh, I do. Okay. So I'll bring it around, I promise. But I'm just aware that there is a romance trope in fantasy with, you have the alpha male, whatever kind of character, and then there's this enemies to lovers, right? That trope, okay?
Yeah.
And because there's more than one romance in Sword and Veil, but with one of the romances there's a tiny bit of that. I don't even like saying enemies to lovers necessarily, but it's that idea. The problem is that Eli does not fit that alpha male mold.
Yeah, no.
Certainly not in the first book. He does actually a fair bit in the second one.
Yeah.
He's very gentle. He's very forthright or whatever. But I didn't realize that I really took that typical fantasy romance idea and just and spun it around.
Yeah.
But it works, and I feel like it works really well for the book. And then in the second one, again, like I said, as his character changes and develops, it makes more sense why that was and how it goes and stuff. But if I had been chasing that trope, if I had been like, okay, this is what style of fantasy books like sell and this is what's popular, I would have potentially completely changed his character and
Yeah.
personality. And I don't think that would have served well for the
No,
series.
he's such a good character.
Thank you. Yeah.
They're all good characters. Whether I like them or wish they had a bullet in their head. No.
I'm
Yes.
curious which one you think.
Oh, just the most obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I first of all, I've thought of this question twice. So you've mentioned Brandon Sanderson's YouTube series. Have you looked into like Masterclass, like the actual like website that have like creative writing courses? I think it's a monthly subscription, but
No.
they have creative writing classes and this, that, and the other. They have classes over everything basically. But yeah, I thought that was interesting because obviously
No.
Brandon Sanderson is a great place to learn, but there's other authors that are on there as well. So I was
Yeah.
just
No, I didn't know that. What I've done, so his had some really good information in it, but beyond that, it was blogs and personal friends of mine who have dabbled in writing. My sister had a gal who is, it's funny, she's a very successful independent author, and allegedly my sister talked to her and said, "Hey, my brother's getting into, he has questions, can you help him out?" And she told my sister, "Absolutely, totally, here's my phone number for him," or whatever. And I put together a list and I sent her the list and I was like, "Hey, if this is better as an email or whatever, here's my whatever kind of thing." Never heard anything back. Totally got ghosted. But there are a lot more resources out there. And that's, YouTube's just a big one. You
yeah,
can
I love
you can
you.
just YouTube, yeah, creative writing stuff or
Yeah.
character tropes. What are the story outlines that need to be
Yeah.
fulfilled and stuff, which I started to look into and whatnot. But again, I didn't know this at the time, but being more of a discovery writer, I was limited in that because I'm being so scientific, my brain naturally wants to plan. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to be able to set up a plan, contingencies. That's where my brain lives. And with writing, it's a new thing for me because
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen in this next chapter, but I know that once I sit down and put my fingers on the keyboard, the story's going to continue. It's weird, but I found that diving too deep down that rabbit hole of here's how to outline your entire story, it's not necessarily good advice for every writer too.
Yeah.
So I'd say that would be the last piece of advice for aspiring authors is not every piece of advice is good for you as an author.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it really depends. I think like you mentioned, you've seen people on Book Talk who have been like writing the same book for 8 years. And I think for some of those people, maybe they've been writing for so long because they don't have a clear direction on where they're going. And so I think in that instance, outlining would be helpful and can push you along. That way you don't sit down to a completely blank slate every day and you have no idea what's going on. And I think on the other hand, there are some writers who want their first draft to be perfect and they have like maybe half of it written, but they've gone back and changed
Yep.
90% of what they have written
Yep.
4 times. And so they haven't moved forward at all, which if you can go back and you can edit as you go, if like you hit chapter 26 and there's a new direction that you just know you have to go in and it fits so well, but you have to change this, that, and the other back here, change this, that, and the other, and then continue forward. I think it really just comes back to knowing yourself and your process and what works for you.
Yep. And I think it's like just keep moving, get
Yeah.
the book finished. Because also, I will say too, I know there's a piece of advice, depending on whether you're doing traditional publishing or self-publishing, can change based upon whether you're going to write a series. And the advice that I was told that is if you're going to go traditional publishing, do not write the entire series. Get the first book done, polished, ready for querying, and then go off from there. Because if they don't want the first, they're not going to want the second. However, if you're doing self-publishing, the advice is you can write the series and then do what's called the shotgun method, which is you publish them one after the other. And I'm doing the latter. But I will say this, something that they don't tell you with the traditional publishing route. If you're a debut author, this is your debut novel, and you want to go traditional publishing, this is one man's advice, but my advice would be finish the series for a couple reasons. Okay. One, if they don't like the book and they don't want the book, you haven't wasted time writing the series. You're still getting better as an author, right? You're still better off and more skilled in your craft. And two, I cannot overrepresent the advantages of knowing how this trilogy, my fantasy trilogy, ends and what's going to happen again as the story develops and I get new ideas and stuff, because then I can go back and change the first book. I'm not locked into what I originally had.
Yeah.
And that's
Very
been
true.
that has made the first book, I think, a lot better. And when I tell you Easter eggs, man,
I know.
I'll tell you what.
My God.
Which is
And I
actually
don't even know them all. But I know I left you comments when I went back and did the proofread, and I was like, I didn't notice this when I did the copy edit. And I'm sure there's so many more that I don't know about.
There's
because
so many. And but I did that on purpose. That's actually another motivation that I had. So I told you about the morally gray propaganda stuff. Another thing that has, so I've never reread a book because I've never reread a book because my brain, I don't know why, my brain remembers what happens very well. And so to me, it's just if I read it through, it's like I remember what happened and there's less excitement for me. But a book that I can go back and reread and get new information from and be like, oh, that's why that happened. I haven't encountered a lot yet. I want to try and read Fourth Wing because I've been told that there's a lot of Easter eggs.
You need to try Fourth Wing and Throne of Glass.
Throne of Glass, the first? You mean Throne of Glass, or do you mean
the series?
Yeah, I could maybe give it a second shot. I still have to finish Kingdom of Ash. You yelled at me last time for that. I know. I should just sit down and power it. Regardless.
Yeah. Okay. Move.
My motivation behind it though was I have done my very best to pack Easter eggs mostly into the first book, but as I'll continue that throughout the second book as well if I can. So I'm designing the book to be read twice. What I want is the first read through, oh my gosh, the twist. Then you get to the end of the book and you're like, oh, I'm 95% satiated. I don't want to leave yet. And you restart the series, but you get a different experience because you see all of the little Easter eggs, which I happen to know of, which there's a big one in chapter 2 of Sword and Veil that you'll never pick out until you read the third book.
The third? You're making me wait until the third?
Third. Because it's not a question that's being asked. It's not a question that's being asked. It's just something that doesn't mean anything until you know the truth behind of what's happening. Yeah.
Have I ever told you that I'm not really good at patience?
No. I have. The next 2 books are written, so if you just want to read them for fun, that's up to you.
Oh my God. Okay. Wrapping up. You alluded to this, and once again, you don't have to answer on the podcast if you're not ready to share it, but what comes after this series for you? I had the question, have you been able to think that far ahead? But you obviously have because you mentioned a 4th book. What do you want to share?
Okay. I've actually gone back and forth. So I have a writing buddy of mine, Alex, and he's writing primarily sci-fi. I'm doing fantasy. And so for the Everstone series, Sword and Veil is obviously coming out in a couple weeks. Shield and Sorrow is the second book. I'm going to start editing that. That will be the next one on your table to start editing. But that's the second in the trilogy. And then War and Silence is the third book in the Everstone trilogy. Now, there has been some conversations between my buddy Alex and I, because he's read it and we've done some developmental edits together and brainstorming. And there is discussion that the series could spill into a 4th book and even technically go beyond that. But however, at this point in time, I think it will remain a trilogy simply because the world that I've built is very capable of expanding into a 4th, even a 5th book. Like I can see that. I can envision that. The problem that I have is that the characters that I've written, by the end of the 3rd book, their character arcs are done. They've done what they came to do. They've answered the questions. They've done whatever. And so I think spilling into a 4th would be not necessarily a mistake, but it would be just very different than what I think it would be, because I don't want to overstay the welcome with those characters. I feel like now that I've finished the 3rd book, I'm very content with how those have developed. So even though the world might have a little bit more, I think Elijah and Evelyn and Arlo and Lara and all those characters, I think their stories said and told. No, the 4th book that I'm writing is not in the Everstone series. This is a completely new series that I'm envisioning will probably be a duology, but it is one of 3 other ideas that I have for others. So I've got the next, I think, 8 years worth of writing ahead of me as far as ideas. Again, no lack of ideas here, but Drafting is just the way I equate it to is editing is like eating broccoli. I can put butter on it, I can salt it, I can do whatever I need to do to eat my vegetables, but drafting new material is like eating ice cream. And
I
so I've
love broccoli.
it's this bad. Why? It's okay. A good radish. I love radishes.
What?
Yeah, radishes are
Broccoli's
good.
delicious. Do you like cauliflower?
No, cauliflower is worse than broccoli.
Cauliflower's top tier. You roast that with bell peppers and onions.
Oh, hold on. Do you eat Brussels sprouts?
Yes.
Okay, you're one of those. Okay. Yeah.
I love Brussels sprouts. I was really mad this week, actually on Saturday, because I ordered shaved Brussels sprouts in my Hungry Root order and they were missing.
Rude.
Rude. Yeah.
The whole
And my
meal.
corn on the cob was missing the week before. Unbelievable.
That's a punishable offense.
Yeah.
Corn on the cob's delicious.
Corn on the cob. Okay. Okay. At least you have some semblance of taste. God,
Okay, good.
cauliflower's delicious. What the heck?
Great. It's just, yeah, I struggle with my leafy greens a little bit. But the Everstone, this Sword and Veil is the first, currently in a trilogy. I think it'll probably stay a trilogy, but I've already started drafting my next fantasy idea. And optimally, I think the books are only going to get better as I go. And one thing that I'm excited for is that it's very possible, and I will say likely, that by the time we publish, by the time I publish the third book and that's out into the world,
Yeah.
the book that I'm writing now will, I think, long be drafted, probably be edited, and probably be right next on docket on your desk. So I think that's what I'm planning to do, hopefully, is literally just to keep pumping the books out, because it sounds to me that getting known as a self-published author is a little bit more of winning the lottery than people like to think. That you can have a really solid story and it's great, but it's just not getting attention. And it sounds, the more books you put out there, the higher your chances get, because then somebody reads one of your books and goes, that was great. And then you've got this whole library.
And they can jump into the other 10. Yeah. That is.
So that's the long game that I'm playing.
That's a solid plan. Look at you knowing marketing and things.
I hate marketing. It's the worst.
I'm so proud of you. We're recording this on September 29th, and your first book comes out on the 15th. Releasing this, has this changed your perspective on storytelling?
As a whole?
Yeah, as a whole. Has putting your own story out into the world changed anything about the way you view storytelling as a whole?
Absolutely. I would say in a couple of ways. First, I have far more respect for authors.
Yeah.
Like I said, again, I thought that writing the book was the hard part. Turns out it's this completely disgusting universe of editing and revision, and this balance between
disgusting universe.
Between your creative side and kind of this business side, right? It's okay, this is a great idea, but you have to at least develop the story that's in an interesting fashion, and the balance between those two things. And I have tremendous respect. I had respect for editors before, but now I have even more respect for editors after utilizing your expertise and seeing how much better the book has gotten because of that feedback and advice. And then I would say the last way that it's changed my outlook is essentially just what defines a good author. Because if you, on the outside looking into it, you're just like, oh yeah, like Saren and Brandon and Michael Crichton, those guys they're great. And that's the pinnacle of being a writer. And it's not actually technically true. There's plenty of very extremely well-written books that are written by less than known authors, simply because one, they maybe haven't written as many, or two, they're just not as popular, they're not as mainstream. But so much of that has to do with just marketing and just getting attention. And then people are just shoving the book in your face and say, okay, fine, I'll read it because all my friends have read it, right?
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating because you look at, I read the other day that like J.K. Rowling did what she got denied for Sorcerer's Stone. She got denied like 8 publishers before it got picked up.
At least, yeah, she got denied a lot.
Yeah, and then Stephen King threw his first manuscript away, and then his wife convinced him to keep querying and whatever. And so I think it's just a lot more, I'll say, grace for books from lesser known authors, because I will fully admit that I was guilty of that I only had so much time to read through college and stuff that I would be very particular about what books I read. I'm like, okay, it needs at least 4 stars on Goodreads, and I need from a name that I identify with. And now that's not true anymore. Now this might actually be a really good book that sounds interesting, whether or not it's well known or not.
Yeah. That's a good, I guess, like shift. It opens your What is the word I'm thinking of?
Perspective.
There you go. Solid. Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yep.
So I have one last question and
Go
then,
ahead.
but I want to ask another. I want to ask one question before my one last question.
I
So
want all questions.
your writing buddy, Alex, were
Mhm.
y'all friends before you started writing, or did you meet him through the writing process, like on TikTok or something? Or was he a
We
friend
did,
and y'all
yeah.
just through
Yeah, it
TikTok?
was. Yep, it
Yeah.
was the writing process. He. Let's see. He had messaged me. I think literally just it's like kindergarten, man. You walk up to somebody like, "Will you be my friend?" You know, and legit, he sends me a message like, "Hey," because he was brand new to TikTok, and he's like, "Hey, I finished my debut, or whatever. I'm looking for writing friends. Do you want to do a beta read swap?" And he's started a sci-fi trilogy. He's halfway through writing the second book. He has this amazing idea for a sci-fi romance that he started. He's not at the point where he's going to self-publish. He's not sure when that's going to happen, but I absolutely will represent him when it does because he's tremendous at writing. But regardless, but he reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, can we do a beta read?" At that point, he was in that process, and I had the Everstone trilogy was written. I was,
Yeah.
I'm getting to find, and so I was like, "Sure, whatever." But then that just blossomed into this really cool friendship where yeah, as a fellow author, you're thinking
Yeah.
very similarly. Your brainstorming sessions are a lot more productive. Like most of my brainstorming sessions are with my wife,
Yeah.
which is great. And some of the best ideas in the Everstone
Yeah.
trilogy came from her brain.
Yeah.
And I will fully admit that. But Alex, though, because he's a writer, his brain has the thing that lets you invent new ideas. And so it's one thing to go, "Hey, honey, here's an idea." And she goes, "Okay, but what if X?" Whereas he goes, "Okay, here's an idea, but also this idea." And then you go
Yeah.
up the ladder. And it's been really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So y'all are besties. Do
Yeah.
y'all have Zoom calls and like chat and stuff? Or how do y'all
We
do
did when we
y'all's?
first.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
we
cute.
did.
I love
Actually,
that.
at first yeah, we had a couple of Zoom calls. We're like, yeah, and it was very formal at first. Okay, like I put together a Word document, structured like feedback for his
Of course
book
you
and
did.
stuff.
Yep.
Now we're just on Marco Polo, and we just Marco Polo like every day.
What is Marco Polo?
You don't know about Marco Polo? Marco Polo is an app
Is it
that
like
you
a
can do.
voice messaging app?
It's a
Or?
video message system. Yeah, so
Oh.
you record a video, and then they can watch it and fast forward and go back, and use just video messages back and forth. It's really handy. It's way better than texting. I hate texting.
I also hate texting. My friend Tori and I, when we were reading ACOTAR last March, we started voice messaging back and forth. And that just ruined me because I'm like, you want me to sit down and type you out a tech? Nah, I can't. It's not happening. So we voice message and then I voice message my best friend Carly like almost every day. And then when I have to like text and like, try to get a point across, I'm like, so it's so time consuming. It like ruined me. I just don't want to do it. I'm like, just call me. And I'm like, not of my age because isn't it what is the generation that hates phone calls? Is it the Gen
Generation
X's?
Alpha?
Is it
No, I
Gen
thought it was
X?
this newer isn't this
Oh, I
newest
don't know.
generation doesn't like phone call?
I don't know.
I feel like we should normalize short phone calls. Like I come from a family where it's if I'm coming home and my commute's about half an hour, I'll
Yeah.
call him on the phone. We'll talk for the whole half an hour and then call
Yeah.
it good. But like I feel like we should normalize short phone calls. "Hey, I've got 5 minutes. What's going on?" And we just chat for 5 minutes and then we hang up.
Yeah.
Like I
My
think that'd be fun.
sister-in-law calls me every time. She's, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, blah, 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 blah. What are you doing?" And she's, "I'm driving," because she's in San Antonio. And so she
Oh,
has a
yeah.
commute. And I'm like, you know what? You really should switch things up. Like, I'm going to need you to get out of your comfort zone, do something new. Like, she's always driving somewhere. But yeah, she'll call me and we'll just like chit chat on her way home or to work or whatever.
Nice.
Last question. If you could collaborate with any author, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, there's too many.
I can't pick a favorite character. I can't pick a favorite author.
No, there's because I'd have different questions to ask all of them.
Right. Who would you want to collaborate with most?
Do I get one conversation with them, or do I get like they're on speed dial and I can ask them questions throughout the whole thing? Like
You get one dinner.
one dinner.
You get one dinner. And it's a full, you get all the courses, dessert, wine. But you get one dinner.
I think I'd say Ted Decker.
I had a feeling. Okay.
Yeah. He writes very similar genres to what I enjoy. He's dabbled in a couple different genres because he's done like the classic thriller whodunit. He's done flat out fantasy. He's done a little bit of sci-fi. He's done a couple romance. He wrote a book with his daughter. So he's done even
Oh,
some,
that's
and he
cute.
wrote a book with, there's a trilogy called The Book of Mortals. He, with Tosca Lee, was the co-author for that one. So he's worked with other authors. He's dabbled in a couple genres, and he's also a Christian author. So it's conversations about balancing
Like
um, the whole, yeah, between
yeah.
getting into what is primarily a secular like world genre of marketing, whatever, and then balancing between standing behind your beliefs, but also not shoving it down people's throats either, and
Yeah.
where that balance is, and just how to, yeah, what does the long game look like? Because he's been a full-time author for a long time now, and so I'm sure he's got so much experience with
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
So, but
That's a beautiful answer. I love it. Okay.
there,
Now we're for sure wrapping up. So now is your moment to plug away. Where can people find you, follow you? Where's your book available? Obviously, his book, first debut book, is available October 15th. Where can they find you?
okay. Okay, so the fastest way is most people are on TikTok. So I'm on TikTok.
Yep.
AJ Chase Books is the TikTok handle. I also have a website. There's a link in my TikTok to the website, AJ Chase Books at .card.co, which is CARRD. And that will have all the links to the Amazon Goodreads page, and my email's on there as well. So you can email me directly if you need. The book Sword and Veil, like Kaylin said, releases October 15th. It's on Amazon for paperback and ebook, and I believe it's also going to be set up for Kindle Unlimited when it releases. The ebook you can pre-order, otherwise you can wait for the paperback. I'm not pushing pre-orders really hard. You can decide if you want to wait for some reviews to come back. But it is a fantasy book. Like we've said, it's the first in a trilogy. It's dual POV. There's two main characters. It's got a lot of action, adventure. There's a lot of mystery behind it. Like I said, there's a couple magic systems. There's ancient secrets and all sorts of stuff. And there's a lot of truths that come out as the trilogy continues. You get more answers and then more questions. There's a lot of morally gray conflict, a lot of instances where you will be asking, man, what would I do in that situation? It's in impossible decisions, impossible choice, difficult situations. But yeah, and it's just, I love it. It's my baby.
It's a grand old time. It is great. I can't wait for the other two.
I'm glad you
Can't
liked
wait.
it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and being my
Thank you.
coming back to podcasting.
Yeah, I'm
interview.
honored. I'm honored. Yeah. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah. Oh, we can do it when the second one comes out and when the third and the fourth and yeah, all of them.
But yeah, I have no shortage of ideas. I think we'll have quite a few in the future.
Love that for us.